The dinner table was set in a small, cozy dining room filled with soft golden light from the overhead lamp. The smell of roasted chicken and fresh vegetables filled the air, making the room feel warm and inviting. Around the table sat Tommy, a confident 16-year-old boy with a quick smile and sharp eyes. His parents chatted quietly, passing dishes back and forth. But the most noticeable figure was Uncle Jack, sitting at the far end of the table, quiet and still. Jack didn't say much, almost never spoke, in fact. His eyes often looked somewhere far away, as if he carried a secret no one else knew. The family had gotten used to his silence over the years. Some found it comforting, others awkward. But for Tommy it was something to be embarrassed about. He noticed the way his friends might look at his uncle if they came over, the quiet man who didn't join in, who seemed stuck in his own world. Tommy felt a little ashamed, like Uncle Jack was different in a way that made their family look strange. While everyone else laughed and talked, Uncle Jack only nodded when spoken to and kept his hands folded in his lap. Tommy shifted in his seat, hiding his impatience. To him, Uncle Jack's silence wasn't peaceful, it was weakness. Little did Tommy know, that night would change everything he thought about his uncle. Uncle Jack's quietness now feels like a challenge to Tommy. ChatGPT said, Tommy couldn't keep his thoughts to himself any longer. As the family passed around the mashed potatoes, he smirked and leaned a little closer to his dad. Does Uncle Jack even know how to talk? He whispered loud enough for a few people to hear. His voice carried just the right amount of teasing, but with a sharp edge. Jack didn't flinch. He simply looked at Tommy with calm eyes, as if he hadn't heard a thing. The room grew quiet for a moment, but Tommy saw the quick glance his mom gave his dad, an unspoken warning. Still, no one said anything. Tommy felt encouraged by the silence. Maybe Uncle Jack's forgotten how words work, he said louder, grinning. Or maybe he's just too tired to join in. What's the point of coming to family dinners if you're just going to sit there like a statue? A few cousins tried to hide their smiles, unsure if they should laugh or feel sorry for Jack. Tommy's mom gave him a sharp look, but he didn't care. He was on a roll now. Uncle Jack stayed quiet, but his calmness made Tommy feel even more bold. It was like the silence was daring him to say more. So Tommy pushed further. Hey Uncle Jack, he said, louder this time. Why don't you tell us one of your stories, or are you too quiet because you don't have any? A heavy silence filled the room. Tommy's words hung in the air, sharper than he expected. His uncle's steady gaze met his own. There was no anger, no sadness, just stillness, but that stillness felt stronger than any shout. The family shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Tommy's dad cleared his throat, trying to change the subject, but the tension was already thick. Tommy could feel it too, like Uncle Jack's quietness was no longer just a mystery or a weakness. It was a challenge, waiting silently for Tommy to understand. Tommy's dad cleared his throat again, his voice calm but firm. Tommy, that's enough, let's just enjoy dinner. Tommy rolled his eyes but nodded, pretending to settle down. His mom reached over and squeezed his arm gently, hoping to remind him to be respectful. A few family members exchanged worried looks, but no one said much. Still, Tommy's mind was racing. He didn't understand why everyone was so quiet about Uncle Jack. It seemed like no one wanted to talk about him, like there was some secret hidden behind that silence. Then, after a long pause, Uncle Jack's voice finally broke through the tension. It was soft, almost a whisper, but it filled the room like a gentle wave. Tommy, please stop. Everyone froze. No one had heard Uncle Jack speak in years. The sound of his voice was unexpected and surprising. Tommy laughed, a little nervously. That's it. That's all you've got. He leaned forward, daring. Come on, Uncle Jack. Say something more. Or are you just good at telling people to shut up? The room grew even quieter. If that was possible, all eyes turned to Uncle Jack, waiting. For a moment nothing happened. Then Uncle Jack's eyes met Tommy's again. There was something behind them, pain, strength, and a quiet determination. The silence that followed wasn't empty anymore, it was full of questions, waiting to be answered. Tommy's mocking had opened a door, but no one knew what would come through. The family held their breath, waiting for Uncle Jack to decide what to say next. Uncle Jack's eyes scanned the room quietly before he spoke again, this time with a softer, almost hesitant tone. "May I show you something?" No one said a word. The family exchanged curious looks, unsure what to expect. Tommy's mocking smile faded, replaced by a flicker of curiosity. Slowly, Uncle Jack stood up and walked toward a small cabinet by the wall. He opened the door and took out a worn wooden box, its edges faded and scratched from years of handling. The box looked heavy, as if it held something important. He brought it back to the table, and placed it gently in front of him. Tommy leaned in closer, his eyes narrowing as he tried to make sense of what was inside. Uncle Jack lifted the lid carefully. Inside, rows of metals glimmered under the soft light, metals of bronze, silver and gold, each one different. Next to the metals were folded letters and old photographs, yellowed with age. Tommy's smirk disappeared completely. He glanced at the metals, then back at his uncle, confusion mixing with something new, respect. Uncle Jack picked up a small silver medal, its surface scratched but shining. "This one," he began, "was for a mission where I had to lead my team through a dangerous area. We lost some good men that day." His voice grew softer, almost as if he was talking to himself. "It wasn't easy to keep going, but we did for each other." Tommy swallowed hard, his eyes fixed on the medal. He had never thought about the kind of courage it took to do what Uncle Jack had done. Uncle Jack then reached for a folded letter. This was from a friend who didn't make it back. He wrote about his family, about how much he missed them. Tommy could see the sadness in his uncle's face. The silence made more sense now. It wasn't just quietness, but a shield for pain. For the first time, Tommy felt the weight of the stories hidden behind the silence. He looked around the room. The family sat in quiet awe, listening to the man they had never truly understood. Uncle Jack's voice grew stronger as he shared a few more brief stories, moments of bravery, sacrifice and loss. Each medal was a memory, each letter a reminder of what had been endured. Tommy's mind shifted. The arrogance he felt was replaced by a deep respect. The uncle he thought was weak was, in truth, a man shaped by hardship beyond anything Tommy had ever known. The metal box was no longer just an old box, it was a bridge between the past and the present, connecting a family that needed to understand one another better. Tommy's eyes met Uncle Jack's again, this time with something different, quiet admiration. The night was no longer about mocking silence, but about hearing the stories that silence had kept safe for so long. Uncle Jack gently closed the metal box, and took a deep breath. His eyes, usually distant, now held a quiet sadness that filled the room. "There's something you all need to understand," he said softly. "Why I don't talk much, why I'm silent." The family leaned in, waiting. Tommy's heart pounded. He had never imagined hearing this side of his uncle. "It was during my last deployment," Uncle Jack began, voice steady but low. "We were in a place far from home, fighting for something bigger than ourselves. I was a squad leader, responsible for the men I brought with me." He paused, the memories heavy. "One day, our mission went wrong. We were ambushed." Tommy's breath caught. The room grew still. "We lost 4 of my closest friends that day." Uncle Jack continued, voice breaking just a little. "They were more than soldiers, they were brothers. Men who trusted me with their lives, and I wasn't able to save them." His hand trembled slightly, as he glanced at the metal box. "I carry their memories with me. I carry the guilt, the pain. It's why I don't speak much. Words can't fix what's inside." A tear slipped down Uncle Jack's cheek. The family sat motionless, caught between heartbreak and respect. Tommy felt his cheeks burn with shame. All this time, he had seen Uncle Jack's silence as weakness. Now, he understood it was a shield, a way to protect himself from the storm of grief he carried every day. He swallowed hard, and looked at Uncle Jack, the man who had been a mystery for so long. "I'm sorry," Tommy said quietly, voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know, I didn't understand." Uncle Jack nodded, the sadness softening into something warmer. "It's okay, Tommy, I know you didn't mean to hurt me. Sometimes, the hardest battles aren't the ones fought with guns, but the ones fought inside." The family, moved by the moment, reached out in small ways, a hand on a shoulder, a gentle smile. The room felt lighter, as if the silence between them had finally been broken for good. Tommy's father put a hand on his son's back, proud but emotional. "We all have our battles," he said quietly. "And sometimes, silence is the loudest way to carry them." Tommy looked around the table, seeing his family in a new light. His uncle was no longer the quiet man at the end of the table. He was a hero, a brother, a man who had sacrificed more than Tommy could imagine. The night had started with laughter and teasing, but it ended with something far more important: understanding, respect, and the healing power of truth. Tommy smiled softly, feeling the weight of the lesson settle in his heart. From that day on, he knew that sometimes silence wasn't empty, it was full of stories waiting to be heard. After the heavy silence lifted, the family slowly returned to their meal. The room felt different now, warmer, softer, as if the walls themselves had softened with understanding. Plates were passed gently, and quiet conversations started again, filled with a new respect. Tommy caught Uncle Jack's eye across the table. This time there was no awkwardness or distance, just a shared look of quiet connection. Uncle Jack gave a small, almost shy nod, and Tommy smiled back. It was a moment neither of them would forget. The silence that once felt like a wall between them had become a bridge. Tommy no longer saw Uncle Jack as just the quiet man at family dinners, but as someone carrying stories and strength beyond words. He realized that respect wasn't about loud voices or flashy stories, it was about listening, understanding, and honoring the battles others carry quietly. As the night wore on, Tommy's thoughts stayed with his uncle's stories and the medals that told so much more than words ever could. It was a lesson in humility, bravery, and the power of family. In that small dining room, surrounded by the people he loved, Tommy understood something important. Sometimes the strongest bonds are built not on what's said, but on what's quietly shared and deeply felt. And with that, the family's silent bond grew a little stronger, one story at a time.